Hi, in this video, we're going to go over what a layout should look like or how to code a layout for two equal columns. So if you look at the picture here, or look at the center of your screen, you will see that we have a header section, a top nav, and then we have two columns. So this should be a pretty simple one. Where it will kind of get a little complicated is if you want to add multiple rows within that column, and I'll explain that towards the very end of this video. So first thing, I am going to step-by-step go through and how to do this. You will have this presentation and the video to go side by side. I am going to tell you in the video where to pause to make sure that you're caught up. And really, you should pause the video at the end of each step to make sure that your screen is kind of looking very similar to mine. It will not be exactly the same. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create my video talking about what I'm doing during this quarantine. Again, you can make your video about anything that you want as long as it's school appropriate. So you should have already done a storyboard. And you should be making yours look like your storyboard. So when I say to go to do the header, you're going to do what you have in that header section. You're going to make the links match. Mine is just an example. Yours should be very specific to what you're planning on doing. So step one is to make a new glitch and to rename it. So you're going to go to glitch.com, you're going to sign in with your CPS email, and then you are going to, up in your top right, click new project, and then you're going to rename it. When you rename it, it should be your last name, dash final dash project. For some of you guys that have very common last names, this name might already be taken. So what you should do is add your first initial or maybe add a number to the end of that final project. So last name dash final dash project 2. You'll also want to rename it if for whatever reason it comes up telling you that the URL can't be reached or if there's privacy issues. Sometimes Glitch will kind of glitch and it'll say it can't find that name and you'll just have to rename it and then your website should pop up. So like I said, I'm going to do this with you as we go through. So new project, you're going to do hello web page because that's what we are creating. It's a web page, and I'm actually going to move my video over here. So we have a new web page. I'm going to name it up here. So you'll see where mine's currently named Free Fantastic Wedge. So I'm going to click, hit Control A, and that's going to select it all. And like I said, Taylor, final, oh my goodness, final project. So it's saying that my name's okay. It pops up red. That's usually when it's saying that that name's already taken. And I'm going to click out of it. So pause right here if you are not there. All right, step 2, we're going to prepare your index. So what we're first going to do is we're going to collapse the head section by pressing the down arrow on line 3. So the reason that we're going to collapse our head section is just so we can kind of hide those lines of code. We really don't need to see them all right now, and what that'll also help to do is alleviate or kind of troubleshoot ahead of time that we're not going to accidentally put anything in our head section that shouldn't be in our head section. So especially as we're kind of copying and pasting things in there. The second thing that we're going to do in step 2 is that we're going to erase all of the code below the head section, so lines 15 all the way down. And the reason that we're doing this is, oh my gosh, excuse me. The reason that we're doing this is simply we don't need to have some of that pre-coded stuff in there. So where they're saying, hi there, I'm your cool new webpage. We don't need that in there because we're going to be adding our own stuff to it. So I went ahead and clicked on show page to the side so that way I can kind of see these edits. So step 1, I'm going to collapse the head. So you can see all of that code is still there. It's just currently hidden. And then I'm going to erase lines 15 down. So pause if you need to, but your web page should look like this when you are done. All right, step 3, we're going to copy and paste the HTML code from the layout templates, or I went ahead and just put it on the slide so that way you don't have to have 6 different documents open. So I'm going to hit Control A and Control C. So Control A selects all, Control C copies, and then I'm going to come over here and paste it into my website. So if you notice over here where it gives us that preview of the website, it's very blank, right? It gives us a blue header and then links that aren't that fun navigation or that stylized navigation bar. The reason that is because we've told it the structure and some of the content, but we haven't given any rules yet or any specific directions on how we want to style it. So come back over, and now we are going to move on to step 4. So step 4, you are going to copy and paste your CSS in. So remember that CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. And that's really telling the browser how you want the stuff to look or how you want it to be displayed. So after I paste that in there, you're going to see now that we have a header section and then we have those links. This looks very similar to the simple layout, and it's going to look very similar to some of the other column ones. The only difference is going to be when we code that main section, we're going to put it into different sections or different div classes, and I'll explain that here in just a moment. So the next step. So this should be what it looks like, making sure that you're pasting that into that style CSS. Remember that CSS and HTML are 2 different languages, so some of the coding rules are a little bit different. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add new pages. So remember that your website needs to be a minimum of 3 pages. It can be more if you want. So we're going to name the pages something that makes sense to your website. So as you're going through encoding, remember that you can't step by step see what you're doing on like your second and third page, because every time you make a change, your preview on the right changes back to that home page. So you're going to want to make sure that you are naming it something appropriately. So that way, when I see that I'm on like school.html, I know exactly what's going on this page. I'm not having to go back and double check so much. So name the pages something that makes sense to your website. So again, going back to my storyboard, which you can't really see because of the lighting. My 3 pages are occupying my time, school, or like changes in teaching, and then my feelings and experiences. So I'm going to name them something very pertinent to that. Pay attention to your spelling and capitalization because you will need to type it exactly the same way. So if you have like a weird capital letter, or if you have like an S in your file name but not in your an S in your file name, but not in your actual line of code and those quotation marks, it's not going to work. So it needs to be typed exactly the same way. And then make sure that they end in .html. So .html is the file type, and that tells the browser what type of file you are opening when you are clicking on that specific link. So let's make our new pages. So you're going to come up here and click on New File. And like I said, one of my pages is going to be about school. So I have school.html. And then my other one is going to be experiences.html. So pause here if you need to, and add your files. After you've created your files, we're going to stop for a second with the navigation bar. We'll go back to the navigation bar in step 7, but we're going to edit our header. So one of the reasons that we are programming it or coding it specifically this way is that we're starting up at the very top, and then we're working down on our web page. So remember that when you're coding, it goes in the order that it's coded. So like line 17 is going to be above line 18, line 19. So we're going to start at the top of the website and work down. We're also starting with the header and the navigation bar because here in a moment, we're going to copy what's on our index and paste it into our other 2. You want your header to be consistent. If you look at all of the websites that you go to on a normal basis, they have a consistent header, and then sometimes it'll have the title of the website and then a subtitle. So we are going to create that now on our web pages. Don't worry so much about styling it. Again, there's going to be another video about styling. So find lines 17 to 20 on your, or in your code, on your index. And you're going to see here that I have this gray writing right here, so line 17. So it says anything between the div class tags will be displayed in the header section. What this is this is a comment. So you'll see that it has the opening angle bracket, exclamation point, dash, dash. That's a way to leave a code in HTML, and then it ends with dash, dash, closing angle bracket. You'll see these throughout your HTML files, and this is a great way for you to either leave notes to yourself, or if you're collaborating with someone, leaving notes for them. But what I've done is I've added them here to give you an outline on how to code your website and how it's going to be displayed. So again, this is going to be in that header section. So this very first H1, I'm going to replace where it says header with the name of my website, which is going to be COVID quarantine. And you're going to see that pop up over here. And then I'm going to add a subtitle because each one of my pages is going to have a different theme or a different topic. So the second thing's going to be occupying my time. Oh, there it goes. So pause it here if you need to, and update your header. So this one specifically is telling you where each thing is going to go. So main title will stay the same on each page. Subtitle will change depending on the page. So pause here if you need to, and fix your header. Again, don't worry about styling. We will get to styling in a different video. All right, perfect. Once you are done with your header, we are going to move on to our navigation bar. So 2 things. One, what goes in between the quotation marks is the exact file name on the page. So if you look here, we have this index.html, and that's going to match exactly with your index.html here. I'm going to switch to a pointer. So here matches the exact same here. And how you want the link to be displayed between the tags is what's going to go between the opening and closing A's. And that's what's going to be shown over here. So let's do this together. So again, you're going to make this match whatever you have named over here on the side. So remember that in coding, index.html is always going to be your home page. For me, this is going to be how I'm occupying my time. Notice that I'm erasing the hashtag. That's only there for like a filler. You don't need it in your actual coding. So my second page is going to be school.html, and I want that to be displayed as changes in teaching. And then my third one, which is experiences, I want that to be displayed as feelings and experiences. Excuse me. So the next step, once we have that navigation bar, let's take a look what it's actually going to look like when you make it nice and big. You'll see that it's still side by side next to each other in that top navigation bar. The reason that it's making it go down in this way is that it's scrunched up the website and it automatically goes down to the next line if there's not enough of a browser space to see it all the way across. All right, next step. Oh, so real quick, note that if you like the class equals active, I didn't add it to the template. You can go back and add it if you want to. You're simply just copying what you already have in your About Me page, specifically the part that says active in your CSS, and then you would add that class equals active within. This is not necessary. It is something that's supplemental. So if you want to add it, go ahead. If you have questions, let me know, but it's not a requirement for this page. All right, so now we're going to copy and paste our structure to the other 2 pages. So going back to your index, I want you to hit Control A, which is going to select all, and then Control C will copy. I'm then going to paste it in to my other 2 sites. Once you have that, that means you have the basic structure on the 3 web pages, and now you are ready to fix your title and to add content. So step 9, we're going to change the title tags and subtitle for each page. So this is going to help you differentiate between what pages you are on when you're doing your coding. So the title tags is one of the things a lot of people got marked off for on the About Me page because they didn't change the title on their past and present. So what you're going to do is go to your index, uncollapse your head section, and go to line 4. See there where it has title, hello, and then closing title? That's what's displayed up here in the tag. So we're going to change that to match your index, which is whatever your first page is about. So for me, it's occupying my time. And you'll see that it changes that up here in this tag. Notice that it doesn't say it all. So the more tabs you have open, the smaller it gets. So you want to make sure that you're not writing like a full sentence in that title. You're kind of keeping it short and sweet. I'm then going to repeat that process for my next 2 pages. So for school, I want it to say changes in teaching. And then I'm going to come down here and change my subtitle as well. So for me, that is line 21. It should relatively be about the same place for you. So I'm going to change that where it says changes in teaching as well. So that way it changes the subtitle here. Repeating that same process for experiences. Going up to line 4 and changing my title. And instead of doing feelings and experiences, because that's a little bit of a longer title and that's not going to fully be able to fit in that tab, I'm just going to write experiences. And then come down and change it within that header section. And here I can go back and do that feelings and experiences. So pause right here. What you need to do is change your title for each page to something appropriate for whatever that page is about, and then to also change your subtitle within your header section. So pause here if you need to. Make sure that your header and your subtitles are named appropriately. All right, what we're going to do now is we are going to double check the work that we have already done. It's very important as you are coding your websites to stop and kind of check for any mistakes before moving forward, because the more code you write, sometimes the more complicated it can get. So we're going to stop, we're going to check. So here's my index. We got COVID quarantine, occupying my time. I'm going to click on this link to make sure it works. Works great. Going to click on changes in teaching. I see that it changed up here. It's changed here. I now know that link works. And now I'm going to do the same thing for feelings and experiences. Notice here it says not found. So what that tells me is that I've made a mistake somewhere in my navigation bar that it's not working. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to click on my index and I'm going to scroll down to my navigation bar. So again, you're looking for div class equals top nav. And I'm going to look specifically at that line. So A space href, that's correct, equals quotation marks. Notice here I made 2 mistakes. One, I spelled experiences wrong. It doesn't match over here. And the second thing is I forgot the .html. So now that I've fixed that here, I'm going to come back over and it's going to automatically take me back to my index. And now I'm going to click on feeling and experiences. It now works. So now what I need to do is I need to go back and I need to fix that experiences.html in both my school page and my feelings or experiences page. So school, again, scrolling down, fixing that mistake, doing the same thing for experience. Once I've done that, I'm going to go back again, checking from my changes page, experiences work, and then experiences work from its own page. So double check, click back and forth between the navigation bar and make sure that you don't have any mistakes before moving on to adding columns, because again, you want to make sure that you are debugging before you start adding more complicated stuff. So this is where it changes a little bit for you guys, that it's something new. So you're going to add content to your main section. So if you notice in your code, you have a couple different div classes that we haven't used in the past. One is div class equals row. So a row is something that goes across. And what it does is that row, you have two columns. In our CSS, what we did is when we added the columns, we made each one 50%. There is a height set for this. We're going to actually, you don't need that. The reason that I left that in there was so that you could see if I added a color, what the color would look like. Ignore that for now. Actually, you can erase it. It's probably smarter to erase it. But the columns are set to 50%. So if you wanted to later change them to be unequal, you could do like a left column and a right column and set them at different percentages. If that is something you're interested in, I'm going to push that you watch the unequal columns or uneven columns, and I'll be showing you how to do that there. So going back to my index, and again, you see this note. So div class equals row. You've created a row, and you have two columns within that row. You can create as many rows and as many columns as you like, and I'll show you that at the very end of this tutorial. So anything between the first opening div class equals column and closing div for that one is going to be displayed on the left because we do have it where it floats to the left. The second column is going to be the one on the right. So I've already made this one, so I'm going to copy what I already have. Maybe. So what I've done is I want my content. So I want, all of the different things that I've been doing while I have been being quarantined. I want all of that to be, let's say, displayed on the right. So I'm going to put all of that in the column to the right. So that's going to be the second column. So I'm just kind of showing what this would look like. Oh, there's not technically anything in that first column yet, which is why it automatically floated to the right. I'm sorry, floated to the left. So what I want in my left column, so again, going back to my storyboard, I have my columns over here on the left side, and then I have my writing on the right. So that means I'm going to add a picture to my very first column, which is on the left. I'm going to paste that in there. So let's look at my website. So now I have these two different columns. So if I wanted to, I could make this float to the right and it could make it a little bit more centered. I could adjust this a little bit and make it go down a couple lines. Again, you can use the same styling and the same type of formatting that we have been using. So you could float that to the right if you wanted to. You could center your text. There's a few different things that you can do, but this does show you those two columns. So say if I wanted to continue adding more things, or maybe I want to flip. So I want to now have a picture on the right column and I want text going down the left. What I can do is I can add another div class equals row, div class equals column, div class equals, oops. All right, so what I have is I have another div class, and then nested within that div class are two more columns. So this is strictly just to show you, you only have to do those two columns, but if you wanted to, this creates a new set of columns. in a different row. So I'm, again, just showing you. I'm going to move me back over here. So now this was that first row with column 1 and column 2. This is my second column. So it allows you to create kind of a better divide, and it allows you to do better spacing. You don't have to do that. That is just simply another option that you can use. We added content to our main section. We talked about that. This, and then, okay, you're repeating this for pages 2 and 3. Remember that you need to have 2 pictures on every page and at least 2 forms of writing in some way. And you must have a list somewhere on your website. So a couple things. One, if you completely forgot how to code and you have no idea what some of the tags are, remember that I have this HTML and CSS playlist on Google Class, not Google, it'll be posted on Google Classroom, but it is on YouTube. And these are all the little lessons that we started doing in February. So going over H1's paragraphs, line breaks and horizontal lines, list, how to insert a picture, adding new pages in a navigation bar, styling it, the difference between inline, internal, and external, adding external to your website. There will be another styling one that I'll go over specifically, and how to share links to edits. So that last one is very important. As you are working on your websites and you're wanting to get help or you're submitting them, you need to make sure that when you click share, you are doing this link down here where it says invite others to edit. What that allows me to do is I can go in and make edits to your website that you can later see. And what I will do is I will add comments so that open angle bracket, exclamation point, dash, dash. It'll say like notes from Miss Taylor, and then I will give you specific feedback in your website as you go through. All right, I know that this is a lot. It's simple once you start. It will be probably kind of difficult for like the first 15 minutes as you're figuring out how the columns work. Just remember that anything in that first div class equals column will be on the left. Anything that's in div class equals column, anything on your second div class equals column will be on your right. What will help you kind of figure out where you're at is when you click on it. So like here, when I click div class, I can see that everything here, it highlights the opening tag and the closing tag. And I can see that this will all be in the column to the right. When I click on this opening class or div class equals column, it'll highlight that this one's the closing tag. Everything here will be to the left. If you need help, please make sure that you're sharing that link. You are reaching out either through Google Chats or Google email, either one. If you need help, let me know. I can do specific tutorials, or I can point you into directions, either to tutorials I've already made or W3 Schools. As always, I hope you are doing well.